Hey, this is Michael Calero, creator of Quested and writer of American Psycho. And
Kevin Ruditelli, creator of Wash in the Blood, Freak Snow, and writer of Bad Omens, Concrete Jungle.
we are two of the three founding members of Massive Publishing, and you are listening to the Oblivion Bar podcast.
Welcome to the Oblivion Bar podcast with your host, Chris Hacker and Aaron Knowles.
Welcome to the Oblivion Bar podcast. Joining us this week are the founding fathers, or at least two of three founding fathers behind the comic publisher by some of my favorite titles in the medium, Wesley Snipes, The Exiled. I feel like he's going to kick my ass if I don't say Wesley Snipes, The Exiled. Astrobots, Quested, Liquid Kill, Sean Gordon Murphy's The Plot Holes, Alpha Betas, Ninja Funk, the upcoming I Lie Popeye, and so many, many more. It is my pleasure to welcome Massive Publishing's founders, Michael Calero, Trevor Richardson couldn't be here, and Kevin Ruditelli onto the Oblivion Bar podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being
in
here.
the same room, which is very rare.
Yeah.
We run this from two different countries, so.
Oh yeah. So where are you guys from?
We're in Sacramento, California right now, where I'm based out of, and Kevin's
Okay.
usually
Yeah, I'm from Trois-Rivières, which is a small town nearby Montreal, Canada.
Oh, okay. So funny story is my wife is from Canada. She's from Toronto.
Nice.
I was raised partially in Sacramento, Elk Grove.
Yeah, it's just down the street.
Comics
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I was actually I lived in Sacramento, and I was in actually I don't know if it's the same or not, but Vacaville. So
Yeah.
I lived in Vacaville also when Folsom City Prison was like just right across the street, basically. And I found out later on in life that Charles Manson was actually in that prison when I was living there. So fun times.
in what feels like another life, I had a job where I just would meet people all the time, and I met someone that was like his like personal prison guard.
Oh,
and they had some really interesting stories.
I bet.
This is getting off to a weird start.
Yeah.
We had like a
Trust me.
horror movie music sounding intro, followed by Charlie Manson. And that was
It's
the
very-
they call him Charlie. They don't,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, Charlie. Charlie loves to do,
It's so likable. It's weird. Like,
So my buddy Charlie, so our show we're Tron fans, so we're very synthwave, Tron, legacy. We love that stuff. So that's kind of like our whole vibe is built off of that. But you're right, we're getting distracted. Chris is going to kick my ass later for that. I tend to go off on a little bit of a tangent every once in a while, but let's reel it in a little bit. We're going to get back to Massive and just the pun fully intended, the massive success you guys have been, riddled with. So let's start at the beginning, actually. 2022, Massive was founded through a partnership with Whatnot. You instantly begin developing and distributing some of the coolest books in the medium. Now, I got a few. I got my, my Liquid Kill.
Nice.
I've got
the Metal Gear homage.
Yes. We're going to get into that later also. So 2 years later, Massive's trajectory seems to be on a historic rise. I mean, it's like only 2 years later, you guys are doing some killer stuff in the business. Compared to other publishers in such a short amount of time. Trevor, I want to start with you. Sorry, Trevor's not here. So let's start with you, Kevin. What is it about Massive that you feel just like that gets readers as excited as they're getting?
it's me.
Yeah.
It's wow. We're starting off real humble.
No, but real answer is just like we are fans, we are creator first, so I think that's maybe why it's because like I know my answer was not amble at first, but I think that's actually what makes those books. Like, we are not pretentious with what we are doing. It's just like we do books for people that just love fun entertainment, and that they want to, when they come home after the job, they just want to have a book and just laugh or be thrilled by the action that we give to them. And honestly, like, our publishing line is pretty much just like us, what we like, what we dig, and just like what we want to see on the shelf. So that's I guess the short answer is just like, hey, as comic book fan, I just want to have fun and enjoy what these, what they read. We want to give to the people what we'll love to see on the shelf, and that doesn't necessarily get a chance from other publishers.
Yeah, and Michael, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're talking about, you know, I think we had a lot of great things kind of aligned. I think when we launched, this was kind of a transition moment for publishing. There was some publishers that exited the space. There was, not a lot of uh, really new creator owned stuff that wasn't from Image. And even I think even Dark Horse at the time was like just kind of ramping back up on creator owned. So, you had this like post COVID lull of like kind of a lack of creator owned IPs. And I think up to that point, before we launched, it had gotten away from kind of these like focused launches of titles where it's like
Mhm.
you put a lot of emphasis on like, hey, these are the, and when you're launching a publishing company, you have that kind of extra ability to do that and say, hey, here's the things to focus on. So I think the fact that we were able to focus on these titles really kind of individually, like we launched one book every month. We could have launched with 6 titles and just dumped them out into comic book shelves and said like, all right, like this is what we do. But we said, okay, let's do alpha betas, launch that in October. Let's do Ninja Funk in November, and so on, so on, Quested, Exiled, and we spent that time, and I think it paid off in the sense that people had a little bit of time to get ready for the next one and for the word to spread. Now I think 2 years later, I think what we kind of have shifted to is having that same focus, but in finding the things that aren't being made other places.
Yeah, and you guys are doing exactly that. I'm just gonna like probably like jump around this whole conversation.
Right.
I planned the whole thing out. I'm so excited to talk to you guys because I love what you guys are doing as far as, just like you said, it's a very controlled blasts of just like successful titles that are coming out. Like I've seen so many people excited about Ninja Funk, the eggs, and again, I just showed you guys my Liquid Kill, which is one of my favorite pickups over the last couple years. But also, I'm gonna show you this because I'm a huge fan. I love Astrobots.
Oh, you got the
Like,
advanced copy. That's the
Yeah, I
that's
went
a pro.
deep. I went deep. Like I love Astrobots, and to kind of comment and bounce off of what Kevin said, exactly what you're kind of like doing with, you're cultivating these comics on these shelves, and the massive shelf is just a bunch of stuff that people want to read and people like find. And also they're new titles, which I mean, I'm gonna, we constantly talk about on the Oblivion Bar is that a lot of the problem with new comic readers, when they come, that obstacle that they have to kind of approach is, where do I start?
Yeah.
And with you guys being a new publishing house coming up with these brand new franchises and these new properties, you guys are making it very accessible with these like new stories, and the stories are great.
Thank
So
you.
it's awesome.
I feel all warm and fuzzy now.
Oh yeah.
I'm a gusher, man. I'm a gusher,
No, this is great because like I always joke like being a creator, going through like as a writer, as an illustrator, and especially as a publisher, you spend so much time not getting that interaction. Not knowing, like you kind of feel like at some point you feel like you're just throwing things into the universe.
Yeah, screaming
and
into the void.
hoping that people are enjoying it. And I think comics right now, one thing that there's a really big lack of is like a communication back from fans, right? For as connected we are on the internet, there's not that many forums where you get that really direct.
Well, I think the big difference between like comics and the other, like, I guess, form of entertainment is that one is still physical. Like all the other stuff is digital. So, for example, I watch a movie, a trailer, or something on YouTube. Well, the comics comment section is already there, or the share on Twitter, or whatever. But a print book, there is obviously no share on Twitter. We are not far enough in the matrix yet for that.
Well, one thing I do love is that, just like you said, the comic industry is comprised of a bunch of artists who don't necessarily get to hear a lot of the feedback. And that's one thing that Chris and I constantly talk about. Even like when we just had a panel at C2E2, and the reception that we had this specific comment that we were talking, we had this discussion. We were talking about how I challenge readers to constantly tweet out, message, write in, talk to, like, send stuff to creators. Like, they want to hear that you're enjoying their book. Like, and you'll do it just about, you'll go on Google reviews and you'll tell a restaurant how much you love their, sushi, their crab salad. Do the same thing to a comic book. Go review them. Go let them know that they're kicking ass out there in the field. But Kevin, I got another question for you. So, I'm going to make a comparison here about Massive, and, I mean this with all the respect and love in the world, but when I think of Massive Publishing,
you with a crab salad.
I won't. Not crap salad, crab, by the way. I want to clarify that. But when I think of Massive Publishing, compared to like other publishers like Oni Press or Boom Studios, you guys seem to be, and I'm going to use this loosely, like kind of like that eccentric kid in class that nobody like really thinks to hang out with, but years later they find out like they're the coolest kid and they should have been invited to like all the parties, which you guys are. You're coming to all the parties and you're like giving out all the goods, So Kevin, question starting with you. When searching for the next series or creators you want in the Massive bullpen, what are some of the things that stand out to you and your editorial team?
It's a really good question. I think it's such like a feeling more than like looking for something, like it's when you fall in love, for example, with someone. No,
I like that you looked at me right after when you fall in love.
I was gonna say, Michael's smiling pretty big right now.
No, but sometimes it's like a feeling. You can't even explain like why that person is the one that you deeply connect with. And I think it's the same thing with creation. Actually, for me, like there is some movie that I know or books that are, I mean, people will say it's really bad, don't watch this thing. And I will be like, I really love that one. And or maybe that don't really have like a reason for it, but I think it's the same way. And I'm not comparing like our stuff to crappy movies. That's not my point.
Some people love crappy movies. I happen to love crappy movies.
I mean, Resident Evil box office is one of the toughest franchises of all time. So, but I mean, it's really the feeling and the connection with the creation and the creator behind as well. Because like it's, for example, you were talking about Ninja Fung, and for me, Ninja Fung was I felt in love with the story behind that retailer that his dream was to make a comic book, and being part of that journey of being like, hey, that retailer wanted to make a comic book, sold over 100,000 copies of his number one. It was just incredible to be part of that, journey. So it's all those little pieces of like why this book matter, why this book like make me excited. The mission behind the story behind like what's the purpose of it too. Like I don't want to release a book that I feel doesn't have like a purpose and bring something to the reader. And it's so I guess it's not like a thing of legacy or whatever, just like feeling that like the book matter and that when we send it to press that it will be like an impact on the world or the creator behind, and that we can be part of that journey.
Hell yeah. What about you, Michael?
I mean, as far as new series is like, if I'm looking at from purely from like looking for something, a lot of the times when we find stuff, it's because obviously we get submissions sent to us. You stumble on stuff on Instagram, you go convention, find books. Usually it's the thing that makes me know that it's something that we want to do is when I'm shocked that it's not already taken. That's like the first like spider sense tingling is like, I'll be like, who's published this? And they're like,
you're Peter Tingle.
Oh, no one. And they're like, I'm like, okay, we got to follow up on this. We have to take it further. Now, on another level, on like kind of a more personal level, like coming from being an artist writer for your, I've been a lot of different roles in the industry. I remember a time when I felt like I was ready to be published and was having a really hard time getting into like a consistent book, like getting a publisher to pick up a full series, and going to started to do conventions and saw a bunch of people in the artist alley that were dealing with the same problem. And it kind of became this kind of back of my mind thing is like, why are people not taking chances on these creators that are willing to fly around the country, that have fans? They'll go to a convention and sell $3,000-$4,000 in prints, but you won't take a chance on them doing a book. It didn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. And so part of the like massive starting was that back of my mind thought of like, well, if I could put myself into a spot where I can get someone's book published that maybe would have gotten overlooked, but shouldn't.
Yeah.
That's to me was a big aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, you guys somehow keep picking the, like, as the kids would say, picking the W's. Like, you guys got Ram God coming out, you got the Luchaverse coming, there's so many good stuff. I know, I actually had a really good conversation. I'm not going to spoil what he's got coming, but Chris Yates, who works with you, he's got something cool that he's working on. So like, it's awesome to see and to hear the fact that you guys are true comic fans of not just the industry, but of the people.
Yeah.
And that you really are, I really don't, I didn't expect this, so I don't really have the word to kind of describe it, but you're definitely, like, you're the people's champion here. You're championing. Yeah.
Well, so one thing is being a people's champion. Like, I say quotes because I feel like it would be they'd be kind of hubris to call ourselves that.
Own it.
No. But part of that also is there's an underdog element to it, right? And I think for us, like, we started this 100% on passion and
independent.
We're one of the few completely independent publishers. There's the buck stops with Kevin and I, and Trevor and our team. And so when we look at that and we say, like, we're in a unique position where we don't have to check off a box for someone else, right? Whether that's a good or a bad thing sometimes, like sometimes that comes with the responsibility and challenges, but it also comes with the freedom where we could say, oh, like, we believe in this thing. We don't have to get a sign off from someone. We don't have to make sure it ticks a box of something that, like, whether it be like IP rights or whatever, and we could just put it out. And if we believe in it, we get to see whether it succeeds or fails. And we only can blame ourselves at the end of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as creators, I mean, that's something I'd love to ask you. As creators, how does that feel to be at that level, to have started your own independent publishing and to be the ones who, like, bless off on it, to finally be the one that says, you know what, I'm going to give this, like, small guy, this new guy, a chance. How does that feel?
I can feel your energy kind
of. For me, that's kind of always been a mission, because I love the weird stuff. I've always been attracted to, like, creation that are not necessarily that fit the box of, like, the like a blockbuster, we could say, in a way. So and it's fascinating to me hearing ideas from people at, like, man, your art style is awesome, your writing ideas are awesome, why no one is pick up this thing, and I love the idea of proving it wrong on some of the stuff. Like, obviously it won't always work, because there is some stuff that are just like, okay, it's too out there to be mainstream. Obviously, I think there is a line somewhere, but the idea of just, like, telling the world, like, everyone said no, and we were gonna find a way to turn that into, like, yeah, you should have said yes to this thing. Well, that's yeah.
Well, I mean, like, I think when you look at, like, we were just talking about this yesterday, like, the creators that we were getting covers, for instance, from, like, take the stories out of the equation and just look at purely at art. You look at some of the artists that we got to do variant covers for some of these titles, and you look at their, not saying it was us, but you look at their careers before us, and, like, a lot of them, they hadn't been published by Marvel, DC, Boom, any of these guys. And then you look at their credits now, and they're on some of the, some really big books.
Yeah, and it's only been 2 years, so it's awesome.
They just needed somebody to put their art in the context of, like, okay, you have, like, a Walt Simonson cover right next to, this artist who's never done a major published book, and then someone else sees that another publisher, they pick them. Like, we have one of our biggest challenges is, some of these guys now or guys and gals become so busy that we're like, hey, you want to do a cover? And they're like, oh, I'm booked for, like, now the next year. I'm like, that's great. So for us, there's a sense of pride in that, where we're like, hey, like, we're actually, if there's, like, right now, kind of like what's our biggest contribution in history is, I think we're putting a spotlight on creators that may not have gotten it.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you brought up some of those covers, because that's one of the things I have in my notes, is to mention, like, all of the amazing homage covers that you guys have. And like I said, I showed earlier my my Metal Gear Solid Liquid Kill one, which is again one of my favorite pickups because I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. But also, you guys have some of the craziest, best crossovers. The I want to say it's Quested's and the Legend of Zelda cover. You have Kill Bill. You have a Contra cover. I'm an SNES kid, or I mean an NES kid all the
Yeah.
way, and a Contra cover just speaks to my soul and my nerdy little dirty soul. And it's amazing to see like the detail, the love, and just like the pure like nostalgia, because you guys are, again, you're telling some really awesome stories, but you're also highlighting some awesome creators while still, I'm not going to say like servicing the fans, but you are. And it's done so well.
So I mean, I think there's a couple different layers to it, right? Like I think when we launched at the time, I think there was a lot of like classic kind of golden silver age homages that had been done, and in my opinion, some of them had just been done to death. Like I could go my entire life without seeing another McFarlane homage. To be honest, like 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 his covers are so amazing, but like once you've seen like so many,
Yeah.
but there's such great covers that it's hard not to do it.
If I see another superhero jumping like Spider-Man, good God.
But one of the things that hadn't really been done much was video game homages. I think with the exception of like 8 Billion Genies, which came out around the same time as our first book, like there wasn't like a precedence for video game homage. And that was one of the things that we were like, hey, we launched with Alpha Betas, which was really game centric, and so we're like, let's start this and see what the appetite was for retailers, because essentially, and this is the second layer to it, is retailers tell us what to keep making. Like I know there's a lot of people online who'll be like, oh, we're sick of variant covers, we're sick of this, but when you look at like how retailers are keeping their shops going, a big part of that are these collectible covers, are these unique books that are being put out. So when we did our video game ones, those were just, outselling like even the biggest name we would put on a book. And so we're like, okay, there's an appetite. These are selling in shops. Like, let's make more stuff like this that a shop owner can turn around and sell to fans like us who are big video game nerds. And now they have a cool collectible item.
And it's comics. Absolutely fun,
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree. My next question actually is for you, Michael.
Oh.
So
all right.
I feel that your talents and creative voice perfectly represent like what Massive does, like just so well. Quested is a perfect example. Kinetic energy, fantasy, adventure, spirit that sits like at the center of Massive's identity. And so you yourself, you're like a man of many hats: writer, artist, letterer, editor. Which of those kind of gives you the most fulfillment out of, when you create?
That's hard. It's like I feel like I learned all the skills out of like pure necessity. I was just a penciler and couldn't find an inker that I could afford back when I was like super broke comic book artist. And so then I was like, I have to learn how to ink. And then it was like, okay, well, like I didn't like the way, the colors I was finding worked on my art, so I had to learn on colors. And so whatever I'm learning at that time is usually the thing that I'm most proud of. And so there was a point in time where I was like, man, I really want to get recognized for doing like interesting letters, because I was doing all the lettering on Quested. When I did the trade paperback, I re-lettered the entire thing.
Oh wow.
And I was like, I really want someone to recognize that like this thing has been lettered better than I originally did. But when it really comes down to it, I love the writing. As far as like something that feels really fulfilling, but it's hard to do those things, and you have to kind of be objective with your time as a publisher and say, okay, if I'm working on too much of my own stuff, I'm neglecting someone else's. So there's kind of a push and pull where it's like I treat myself with being able to do those things, but I always make sure it's like, okay, my first priority is to make sure I'm making, hopefully making other people's books better. Whether that's by, editing or just graphic design or marketing. Like we take a lot of pride in like the book that you showed, the advanced copy. That book exists because we were like, well, we're doing a book on that's very like Transformers adjacent robots. Like, how do we market this in a unique way? So we went to BotsCon with where we were like the only person there selling something that wasn't Transformers, but all of the Transformers fans were so excited to see something
Yeah.
that was new.
Yes.
More
No,
robot.
I
Robots.
yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to hear your answer also, Kevin. But I got to say, yeah, I love that approach, because I think as a Transformers fan, and I'll let you guys know, like, if there's two things I'm known for here on the Oblivion Bar Pod, it's I love two things. I love muscle mommies and I love giant robots. And the
So
fact,
mom was like Rhea
like,
Ripley, is that?
yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. But you're supposed to ignore that and go straight to the robots, because I love
No,
giant
I
robots as well.
We're kindred spirits, man. We
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
So is Ripley, Mika Ripley would be.
I don't know if you can see in the background, I'm like reorganizing all of my comics, and one of the biggest sections that I have is She-Hulk, which I'm not ashamed of. So but yeah, so like I love, again, like I was the non-traditional giant robot story that has so many layers to it of revolution, all that stuff. We could talk Astrobots all day long, and I'll have a question at the end for that, because I definitely want to know if there's what's going on. But Kevin, I want to hear your answer as far as what's your most fulfilling kind of role when it comes to comic creation.
Well, I'll do two role. I publish and I write. I'm not like as talented as Michael Calero. No, but I really like writing. Obviously, and publishing. I think to me, what's fun is really like bringing something to the market that is against the odds. Sometimes, that's probably where my excitement come the most. I like spinning the wheel. So. But no, I will say writing. I love like writing and playing with the medium. For me, the most fulfilling thing is probably because like I discover, I guess, my passion for comics really late, so I don't have like this 25 years of comic book geeking and knowing like, oh, in 81 that guy did that. So I don't have like this old school thing to me. So it's kind of fun like trying to play with the medium and doing weird thing with it. I think that's what I have the most fun, because maybe I don't have like the rules, or I don't feel like I'm playing the rules, So
Yeah.
and maybe sometimes I'm really dumb with the with the thing, but that's where I have the most fun, is actually like, hey, how do we try to make something more interesting and finding ways to play with that medium,
If you knew how many ideas we have to throw away because they're just too ridiculous, you'd be shocked. Like, it takes a lot of refinement.
It's funny because like the amount of weird like books and weird ideas and plots that I've read, and because Kevin, I'm the same way. I somehow get to introduce this into every conversation that we have here on the show and off the show, is like I am the new reader of the group when it comes to comics. So I'm the same way. Like I don't have an extensive knowledge. I don't have an extensive like trivia based knowledge of like what issue was this and this, but I love the art. I love a good story. I love covers. So I'm the same way, and I love the fact that you're kind of like feeling you're like this puppet master just messing around in the background, like trying to change the medium itself, which I really enjoy. But let's, I want to talk also, and speaking of like introducing new stuff, we mentioned earlier that the future is looking bright for Massive. Your lineup is going into the summer is looking pretty insane with the Luchaverse coming out. You got the first trade for Liquid Kill coming out. Crash Down with Comic Tom, aka Tom Garcia, shout out, seems to be like really successful. And all that being said, something we haven't mentioned yet is you recently partnered with Printed in Blood.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear more about that partnership.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the partnerships we're excited. Like, we treat every book like it's a partnership, because we don't want to just do like one book with a creator. What we want to see is like, we want to have that person's career grow with us. When it comes to Printed in Blood, the thing that I'm really excited about, it's something that we really wanted to do from the very beginning. We're like, let's find a way to get into really high-end art books and do these really cool, like, focused things. And the example I always gave was the Thing art book, which Printed in Blood did. And it was almost by pure accident that we met them at Licensing Expo. And immediately, like, we're like, oh, these guys are really cool. And they seem like they'd be people that we could find a way to partner with. And rather than us trying to like reinvent Massive to do this thing that we really want to do, we get to partner with the people that are doing it the exact way that we want to be doing it.
Mhm.
And so with that, the thing that we get to bring to the table, which is really cool, is like they haven't been distributing to retailers. They've been very focused on the direct to consumer market. So now we get to introduce all these retailers to these great books that they didn't have access to before. And it's just a really perfect partnership in that way. And I think, like, I'm a huge Bernie Wrightson fan. So for us to be able to launch it with, Bernie Wrightson tribute book is really cool.
It seems pretty like, I want to use the word like synergistic. Like you guys seem to like work really well together. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that. When it
we are the same blood type for sure.
So yeah, that's exciting. And I kind of have a follow-up question to like a kind of like a partnership one. And again, I feel free to like just tell me to shut up and we can move on to the next question. But I wanted to ask about the heavy metal revival. Because I noticed that on your, you guys printed a story about it. And, for me, it's kind of sad because I grew up, even though I shouldn't have, watching the heavy metal movie and reading the comics. And so I was really excited, when I saw that there might be like a revival. If you don't mind, can you kind of like go into that and like what kind of like I guess give us kind of the behind the curtain on what happened with the revival?
This guy does not know how to hold his cards. No, I this is what I can say about it, because like we did a partnership. We did the Death of Heavy Metal homage. Had a really cool opportunity to end volume 1 and restart with a volume 2, which had never been done. And just I think timing was really the biggest. They changed CEOs. It's really public knowledge that pretty much their entire staff left at that same time. And for us, like, this is what I can say about it. What we would have done with it would have just blown everything away. It would have destroyed. So that part that's why we kind of squirm, because we're like, things.
I've never been, I think, more excited for a partnership.
That's and I hate to I'm sorry to bring it up, and like I said, I totally understand if you were like, we don't want to talk about that, because like as a heavy metal fan and seeing what Massive has been accomplishing over the last couple of years, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. The energy that you guys would have brought to it would have been so game changing to it, and I can see how that like kind of opportunity not coming to fruition is definitely like, that's the reality of some things that occur in this industry, and it's very unfortunate.
But that is a perfect connection back to what I was saying about like what makes us work is not needing to have approval from someone that's so many parts removed. And a partnership like that is very much built on waiting for other people to come around to an idea or to approve an idea, or there's just a lot of layers to it. So overall, I think the thing that coming out of it, it's a sore topic, but I'm actually, like, in my opinion, like, we can control our relationship with creators and with retailers, and like there's never, like, in our opinion, we always do right by creators. We always do right by retailers. We go above and beyond to do that. It's easier to do that when it's just Massive. So like that's so kind of a benefit of the flip side of like the soreness of not doing it.
Yeah.
The flip side benefit is like we got to we kept focusing on Massive and making Massive better.
And more
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely the silver lining, I guess you could almost say, is that it like you retain your kind of autonomy, and you don't have to really worry about that other aspect of it. So definitely a great way to look at it, and I'm glad you guys can look at it and see it, like that also. Shameless plug, because I'm getting ready actually to purchase one as well. But if you go on to, for anybody listening, if you go on to Massive's website, they have a heavy metal bundle, number 320 exclusive bundle, with the homage to Death of Superman cover, as well as a Tony Moore print, which they're both just absolutely gorgeous. So
that's the most slept on item we've ever made. Like the Tony Moore print. So, and this is the thing, it's kind of, so I don't have a problem talking about this because it's been so long. That was going to be the issue 1 cover for the relaunch, and we had kept it a secret. And then, we ended up doing it as this poster bundle with the 320 Death of Heavy Metal cover that I did. And it's just like this item it's a limited item when there's never going to go back to print. You're never going to see that.
Limited to 1,000, I think, right?
It was the Death of Heavy Metal was limited to 1,000, and the print was limited, I think, to I think it was less than, I think it was like 500 or something like that. It was a low print run. But yeah, that was one of those things that we did it for Comic-Con, and it kind of got slept on there because we had so much, we had Sean Murphy at the booth, and he had this crazy line going around it. And so that item kind of, lived in the shadows. And
yeah. Well, that's why I was like, I wanted to give it like a a kind of a shameless plug, because I think it's gorgeous. Again, I'm a huge heavy metal fan, and I was like, I don't understand why there's still. When I logged on, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go get it, and I went and logged on, and I'm like, why is there still some there? Like, those things should be gone. So I'm gonna go and grab myself one. And I think anybody listening, if you're a heavy metal fan, if you're an old head like me, I didn't even read comics, like other comics, when I was a kid. I just found heavy metal magazines. I was like, this is bad fucking ass. So people need to go check it out. And like, so one final question for you guys, and it kind of deals with conventions. I thought this might be a good thing to get people excited about. You guys have this really close relationship with Whatnot. You always bring this awesome cadre of heat to all of the major events, new series, swag at your booth, speaking of swag, and of course the variants, like so many variants at your booths, with San Diego Comic-Con like quickly approaching, and NYCC in the not too distant future. What kind of teasers can you give us that the fans should be getting excited about?
Yeah, I mean, we have some really great stuff launching at San Diego. I think we have Ram God,
obviously,
and Luchaverse launching right before the show, so we're going to do something special for that, obviously.
We might have a guest appearance at the booth.
Yeah, we're gonna have some guest appearances.
We need to say might. That's the
we will
PR.
No, so we have some we're going to be doing some sneak peeks at some of our titles that we haven't even announced yet.
Popeye.
Yeah, well, of course we'll have some Popeye stuff, and I think for us the thing that's kind of cool is we're a very small team, right? And so we don't get to spend as much time focusing on, like, sometimes we have to kind of race to the next thing, and so we have these covers that we've done that when we do these conventions, we get to kind of take them out of the vault and be like, hey, look at this cool thing that we did as like a Massive exclusive. And that's a big part of why we launched Massive Select was we kind of looked at what we were doing. We're like, hey, we want to make these available to retailers all over the country, not just the convention folks. And so we started to put some of those items into Massive Select and doing new stuff with like Printed in Blood. And so it's cool to now know that even if someone can't be at a convention, we still have these like foil and metal covers available. But the folks who do go out to the show, they're getting like the best selection of
absolutely.
Yeah, and at the booth we'll be announcing a new partnership.
Ooh,
surprise!
That's exciting. Any hints?
Deadpool.
No. Yeah, I forgot the hint. We sold our soul to sell comic books. That's what it takes now.
Nice.
No,
Okay.
and the thing that's also really cool is like we're launching a lot of trade paperbacks now, and there was kind of a method to the madness, of waiting a bit before we did that. We wanted to make sure that when we did start to like release in bookstores, that it felt similar to our launch in the direct market, to comic book shops. So now, like,
Yeah.
every month we have something dropping at bookstores, Amazon, and fans who maybe missed out on Astrobots will now be able to hold a trade paperback of it in their hand. And for fans like yourself, we're going to be launching Volume 2. This is the first time we've talked about it. So
Thank you. I was going to
Volume
ask
2
that.
is coming. It's on its way. So
And Simon Furman returning.
yeah, Simon Furman's returning to write. So it's really exciting. We're stoked about that.
Another one for you. Liquid Kill is coming back too.
Yeah, Liquid.
Hell yeah! I'm excited, man. Thank you for telling me that. I was like, man, I need to find out about those two. If I get anything out of this conversation, Liquid Kill and Astrobots, man. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
We've been kind of holding that close to the vest because we wanted to make sure that we didn't like step on the announcements like Ram God and Luchaverse.
Yes.
But
which there's a ton of hype for, especially Luchaverse. I mean, man, that's insane.
When you talk about partnerships, the Master Republic team is incredible. And this is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier, where they've been doing such a great job with their core business, and the comic books never really had the kind of push in the direct market and that they really should have. And now we get to do that. We get to highlight them.
Yeah.
They're just doing such an amazing job of promoting it and getting the word out. And like, they have some crazy plans over the next year of books. So it's only going to get more impressive with that stuff.
Issue 1 right now on FOC with Olipheimer, Rey Mysterio, and the Icon, Tiny Blast Jr. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool way to start that partnership, with those two icons. So
yeah, absolutely. Because that's the crazy thing. Is like I think it's exactly what you said. You have like Master Republic, who they hype, like they're in essence, they're that wrestler iconography. They know how to hype up a crowd. They know how to sell a product. They know how to create like a really good show. And you guys are just kind of like, I don't want to use the term like on the back end, but you're the retail
absolutely.
Portion of it that says like, hey, you keep doing what you do amazingly, and we'll do what we do amazingly, and we'll work together and kill this game.
That's like, like you mentioned Crashdown earlier. Like Tom is one of the most recognizable voices in comic books online.
Yeah.
And, for him to get into like the creative side, write a book, get Ben Templesmith, which is just a legend now in comic books, and all they really need is someone to like help make their things better, right?
Yeah.
Like, just like, as an editor, it was like, all right, let me come in here, look at the ingredients, look what you have, see what spices I could add to it, make something really cool, and help it reach the right folks. And those are the best kind of partnerships, and that's what we look for, like people that are really trying to get their books in front of fans and know how to like engage with their fans. Like, that's a huge part now of comic books.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I know Chris, my co-host, not your Chris. I know he just recently like kind of brought one of his pitches out and pitched it to somebody. And he was saying that was kind of definitely an extremely new experience for him, because he's just getting into it. And man, I'm not ready for that. I know I have a few ideas also. I'm not ready for it, but one day I'll get there.
Well, I think the hard part, and this is like, I think if there's any writers listening, this is their my recommendation as both as a publisher and a writer, is don't try to make it perfect. Don't focus on you're not going to make the perfect comic. Yeah. Nobody's going to make the perfect comic. No, there's very few of them that ever get made. But make the comic, get it done. Like, just keep moving forward, because if you rewrite it 1,000 times, what's going to happen is, and I've done this because this is learning from personal experiences. Like, if you write it and you sit on it and you're trying to make it perfect, eventually you're going to find someone else did it and they probably did it better. And then you're going to rewrite it and you're just going to go in this hamster wheel for a long time. It's better just to like get it done, get it out there. If someone picks it up, awesome. If it gets rejected across the board, make the next thing and keep that in the back of your mind. And eventually, if you're writing something that connects, those other things, you can always resurrect them.
Yeah.
All right, 22. I'm sure that happened to you too. There is some story that you feel that it's good, but there's something missing, and then you watch a TV show or a series or whatever. You read a book, and you're like, oh, if I take a little bit of that and I put it in the mix, now that thing that I really wanted to do, I feel it works. So sometimes just like you need time for the idea to be, I think to cook.
Sometimes it needs to simmer a little bit, give it some time to marinate, and then eventually come out to something better.
Writing is all about I think life experiences and meeting people, watching things, going to a museum. You need to take ingredients and make the recipe basically. And sometimes there is a little Big Mac sauce missing to make the burger.
I thought we could get through one.
And then I was like, it's the end. I need to find a way to.
Every podcast, he manages to bring up some fast food.
I'm the same way with I always I tell people always like I'm the newest reader in any room. I'm always the newest comic book reader. Well, gentlemen, before we close out the conversation, I just want to say thank you so much one more time for joining us here on the Oblivion Bar podcast. Great. It's been an amazing discussion. I hope this conversation has let me try that again. I hope this conversation has shed some light on Massive and all the exciting things that these guys are cooking up over there, whether it's giant robots in the Astrobots universe or the digital hijinks of Alpha Betas. I know I'll be excited to see what you guys all announce next. Like we just heard a couple of things, Liquid Kills.
Mommy's series.
I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed. But before we head out, is there anything else that you that you want to tell? It's like anything you want to highlight? Any socials? Any projects? Is there anything that you want to talk shit about, Trevor? Trevor,
the hardest working man behind the scenes. No, I think on a personal self-serving thing, Quested just came out on Amazon, at bookstores. That just dropped. So really stoked for that. Washed in the Blood. Kevin's series.
Washed in the blood.
No one needs to hear you sing that, but Kevin's series just wrapped up.
Number 3 in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
So and that was a three issues mini series. All of them are available at your comic book shop or just at Diamond. So if it's not on the shelf, you can ask your retailer to bring it to you.
And we're getting into the last days of being able to pre-order Zorro, Man of the Dead, Sean Murphy's really amazing 4-issue series. We did a lot of cool back matter stuff with that. Oh, there you go.
Look at that. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm a huge Day of the Dead fan, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And also just for the fans as well, hashtag guilty, guilty sponsorship right here, but you guys can find all that stuff on Omnibus as well if you download the digital app. I know you guys have recently partnered with them, and they've been hyping your guys' stuff up as well, and we're proud to know them and proud to be sponsored by Omnibus. But once again,
get now on iPhone and Android.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys, for being here. Appreciate your time. Again, make sure you guys go check all those goodies out on the Massive Select website. Check out their partnerships. Just again, go support them. We're super excited to have them on the show. So thank you again, and we will see everybody later.